Hello friends, today I am playing with this little dagger brush, and you'll be able to recognize the dagger brush because it's got quite a long little tiny tip at the end, and it's got this wide edge here. This one in particular I'm using just happens to be Zen Art that I got a couple of years ago. I do like it because it's quite soft. Let me show you some of the fun things you can do with this brush. So number one, because of that teeny tiny fine tip, it's going to be really easy to do. Let me get some paint on my brush here. These nice thin lines. Look at that. I mean, they're just needle point almost. So I always really liked that. The next thing is if I put a little bit more pressure, and I'm holding it sideways, if you can see that. So there's flat and there's sideways. I'm holding it sideways. Now let me show you if I continue to hold it sideways and I just put a little more pressure. So we've got these nice thin lines. Now, if I put some more pressure, it's going to widen that brush stroke like that. So that's one way I can get a little thicker line. The next thing, these brushes can be, I like using these for mountains and things. You could also do, cover quite a bit of area. So like a wash, watch this. I mean, that is a really thick line. Now you're gonna need a lot of paint on your brush because you're applying a lot of paint there. So you're going to have to load your brush more than you do for those thin lines, but look at how much area that covers. And I really like that. If you were doing like skies or an ocean, this would be really great. You could then go back in and, create some lines. So I always love a brush that you can use one brush and get all this variation of strokes. But I'm going to show you a couple ways I've used the brush that I had a lot of fun with. So for one, you could use it for a compound stroke, which is always a difficult stroke technique for beginners with a round brush. This one makes it really easy. Watch this. So I'm loading my brush, and a compound stroke is a combination of a thick line and a thick line, which we use a lot of times for leaves and just a variety of different things. But watch this. So I start out with a thin line, light pressure on the tip. I start opening up my brush. I come back up to a thin line, thick line, thin line, thick line. So it's really easy to accomplish that compound stroke. And with that compound stroke, you could create some really cool leaves, starting with the tip of my brush. So we've got this stem here, point, and now I'm going to lay it in a little bit on its side. Look at that leaf coming up on the tip. Really easy. I used to paint with these constantly in the evening for some practice. Point on the side and then back up on the point. Point, back up on the side, and then on the point, point, sideways, back up on the point. So lots of fun, even a two-stroke like that. Let me show you that again. So here is a leaf, point, turning my brush to get to that edge, and now point. And look how fun that is. So you get these really fun swirls. I used to do pages and pages of these long willowy leaves. The other thing you can do with this that is really fun is I could put it double load. I love double loading because it's just such a cool effect. So I'm putting blue paint on there. Then I'm going, and I typically would try to stay away from the tip a bit, and then I'm going to dunk my tip into the green. So now I've got two colors on there. Watch how cool this is. Point, press. Look at that. Point, press. And look at these long, beautiful leaves. I don't know if you can see the two colors there. Let's try it again. Point, press. So there's a blue and a green. Isn't that fun? So I used to practice doing these in the evening, and I would make these long, like willowy, flowy grasses. Point, press, or a ribbon. I mean, look at that. Isn't that so fun and pretty? And then you could use this brush for grass. So if you had a wash like this, I could go in now and just flick up and look at the grass I can get. Just flicking my wrist. Isn't that so cool? Let's put it this way. So I'm using the point. And look at these nice thin lines I get. So this is perfect for a little landscape you might have. Let's see what else. Ooh, you know what else these are good for? I mean, this could really, if you don't have a rigger, you could almost use this like a rigger. A rigger makes those nice thin edges. But yet it's, you know, got a wide belly. So you could get both of those brush strokes. All right. Another really fun way to use this, when I lived at the beach for years and was painting a lot of beach type scenes, I would use this for waves. You could use white gouache on here for some waves. I also used it, this is an excellent brush for palm trees. Let me show you. So we're just going to, and this is my Mylang set, by the way. Paul Rubens Mylang, my favorite paints. So I'm going to create a tree trunk. Let's see here. Let me turn my page sideways here. And I'm working on 140-pound cold press too, by the way. And I'm just going to draw, paint my little palm tree. There we go. And let me just add a tiny bit. And this is where I really love that little teeny point we can get here. So great. There we go. So we've got that palm tree edge. Now, watch how great this is for palm trees. The leaves. I'm going to take it again. It's on its side, not its side, in this way, not flat. And look at that little tiny line. Now, look how great it does for those little palm tree branches. I mean, oh my gosh, it's like it was made for that. There we go. Perfect, right? Let's go into a little different color here. Pick up some of that light green. Chisel edge. And now, I mean, I'm pretty much just dabbing my brush and letting the brush kind of do its thing there. So if you want to paint a beach scene, this brush could do it all, honestly. And then let's go into, let's see, let's go right here. And the other side. I mean, look at that. Isn't that so perfect? Let's go in with maybe a little gold. There we go. And I'm just resting the brush on its side. Here's another. So I used to use that technique a lot for my palm trees when I was painting a lot of beach scenes. And more pressure, you could get, you know, thicker lines. Let's have one coming down in the back here. Maybe even add a little bit of highlight on this edge. You could even go in there with some white. Let's pick up some white there. Let me see, where is my, and whenever I'm using white, I always go for the white titanium because it covers so well. So I'll just put a little bit of that on my brush. There we go. Just make sure you wash your brush really well when you're done. You could even use that brush cleaner I've shown you, which is typically what I do. And then I'm just gonna go along the edge here. Now it's kind of mixing with that, the brown there. So I'm gonna put a little bit in my palette here. Rinse my brush, get that yellow off of it, and go in there with the white. And there you go. Look at how pretty that is. Now this would be a good one too for these, for the waves. So if this was like an ocean scene, look at the fun little waves you could do. Just putting it on its side, kind of laying it on its side, and it creates these perfect little waves. So those are some of the ways I use it. This would also, you know, a angle brush is always a great brush for architecture and buildings, but you could use this one as well. So let's go into a brown, and this will be my last. I don't do a whole lot of buildings, but this has such a chiseled edge. It would do really well. Look at that. Look at the sharp, precise edges you could get there on a building. Something like that. So perfect for your buildings. The other thing I have used it for is mountains, because I can get that little chiseled edge. So if I was doing a mountain, say I already had my sky in the background, I could go in, that's kind of small, and look at that. You could create these mountains really easily. There's some dry brush there. And there you've got these mountains in the background and some of the dry brush for maybe a desert type scene. But look at how beautiful. So I could use this brush for a whole painting. I could do the background. I could do some mountains. I could do a field with some of the little grasses. Or if I was painting a water scene, I could use this for the little white caps in the water, and maybe some palm trees in the corners, and even leaves. Again, I used to practice this brush just for play in the evening. And I would, let me see if I have room on the other side. I don't. Let me grab one more piece of paper here. I would just do a whole page full, because it was so relaxing, of these long flowy leaves. So point, press, like that. And it was just, I loved it. Like that. It reminds me of that ribbon candy. Remember ribbon candy at Christmas? I mean, just something really relaxing. And, you know, twist it and use it in a way that you enjoy. But look how fun. So I hope this gave you some ideas on using this brush. You know, really try your different brushes. I love a brush that's kind of can have multiple uses. So this one, for me, does that. And let's just mix in some more colors. I mean, look how fun this is. It can replace your rigger. It could be very flowy and create those washes and skies and mountains. So it can get those compound strokes like what you're watching me do now. And we use quite often for our flowers and things, these bendy leaves. Let's see, what other color should we put in there? Let's try this blue. Get some of that on my brush. Just really, you know, play with this, but look at how pretty. This would even be a really fun little abstract. You could fill an entire card with this. All right. I will link, like I said, I will link the Princeton brush for this, but you know, this one that I'm using, this is a, this is the, let's see, what is this? Number 10 Dagger. The Zen Art, which I really like the Zen Art actually. Their brushes are quite soft. See, now I'm just getting into this and remembering how much I used to love playing with this brush. I mean, you could do a whole abstract. Isn't that cool how you can create those fun little twists? And the double loading, don't forget to do that double loading. Here's the blue I've got on here, then maybe the other side will do that color. Here's a double loading. Point, press, and look at how fun. It looks like a little ribbon. This, I would assume, might be able to be used for calligraphy too. I'm not even gonna try that because I am not good at calligraphy, but it might even be a fun little brush for that. All right, happy painting. I will link this down below. I will link probably the Princeton brand because this, I will also link the Zen Art, but it comes in a whole set. And they even give you a bamboo brush holder wrap. So there you go, happy painting. Make sure and drop by my Patreon shop and see what I've got for you there. Lots of free goodies, different levels, one-on-ones, all kinds of fun stuff there. All right, everybody, happy painting, and thank you so much for being here. You guys are so much fun, and I just get so much enjoyment out of hearing all the fun things you're doing. And let's keep creating.